here we go. I'm so excited to finally be doing this. Logan and I have been wanting to get back into our podcast, and ever since our baby was born, we realized it wasn't possible to film together anymore because she is a baby. So, go figure. And one day soon, manifestation, we will have a house that's large enough with a recording studio or filming studio where we can film together, and we will have somebody that we trust watching our children, and so we can do the things that we want together. But who am I? I am the divine feminine side of Mystic Rebels. My name is Ashley. I cannot define myself by an herbalist anymore. I used to, but I realized with my ascendant flip into Libra that I'm not just an herbalist. And I don't mean just. Herbalists are amazing, but I used to be more of a clinical herbalist, and tarot was separate. And I had my herbalist clients, and then I had my tarot clients, and then something happened in the last year. I died. And I died in childbirth with my my beautiful girl who was about to be a year old. That's crazy. It's amazing that it's been a year. And the birth was just, I'll go into that on another podcast, that whole birth story. But dying and coming back, that's the ultimate level up. Although I would not recommend anyone try that because it's a complete ego death. And it was for me, because I went from being somebody who was just devout in my beliefs and my spirituality and in the separations of my character and where I put my focus, and family goes over here, herbalism is over here, tarot is over here. This all together collectively creates me. Dying made me realize, and a lot of visions that I've had ever since, I'll share all about this as well, activated new power within me. But in order to activate that new power, I needed to die in terms of the character I was playing, whether it was conscious or unconscious. And I really had to dive further into the world of plants and the spiritual understanding that's so necessary in the plant world, in true medicine, in true connection to our power, and understanding what this human experience really is. And unfortunately, and fortunately, as a human being, I have to do that work myself. And I wasn't necessarily doing that work myself and being the divine example of that work. I wanted to be. I 100% wanted to be, but it's very difficult with becoming a mother and realizing that the postpartum experience is all about integrating your former self with your new self, and that you always are what you've always been. But we're not taught that as mothers. We're taught, and especially biologically speaking, we go from, okay, I'm me and this baby's inside me, to I'm me and this baby, but it's in the outside world. And biologically, my brain is now tuned to this baby's needs. And everything about my life and my identity is wrapped up in this baby. And that's the trap. That becomes the trap of, if she's crying, where am I lacking? You know what I mean? So the work that I've done in the last year has been a lot in the background, because I haven't been able to really divert my focus from my baby to share any ideas. And also, mama brain is a real thing. Brain fog after giving birth to a baby is a real biological thing. Again, it feeds back into that my mind is hardwired to focus on the baby. So mommy's not supposed to go back to work after 3 months or 6 months or even 8 months, 9 months. It's almost a year, and I'm just now starting to be like, I can form real sentences again. But I started with tarot and the spiritual world first. That was my origin story from age 8, I would say, is when I really started diving into crystals, spirituality. I got in trouble at school, in Catholic school, for bringing a book when I was about 12 years old, and it was on the divine feminine. And I have that book somewhere. It was on the goddess. It was like, it's a very pretty book. And it was one of those things that was like iconography for me back then. Cause like, oh, the pictures, but oh my God, the knowledge in that book is amazing. And it's got very, very tiny font. And these two girls came up to me. They were twins. And they asked me, what you reading? And I was like, oh, it's a book on the divine feminine. Or maybe that was when I was reading Teen Witch. No, I was reading Teen Witch by Silver Ravenwolf, which if you're a little bit Wicca or a little bit witchy, you know Silver Ravenwolf, or at least you should. It was Teen Witch. And at the time, the book cover was these three badass witch bitches, and they were teens and they were sexy. And there was, they were wearing black and pentagrams, and, which of course people are like, oh, that's the devil. No, it's not. You don't know what the hell a pentagram is. And it was in like this darkened forest. So it looked fun to me, but to other people, it scared them. And I told them it was a book on Wicca, and they went home and told their parents that I am a devil worshiper. And, so that's really when it started for me, having to be very closeted with my beliefs. And that was true for most of my life up until my sister passed, which we'll talk about in another podcast. I lived in fear and was very although on stage I was, I'm here. That was not me off stage. Off stage, I was more like playing a character based on who I was around, because I was a people pleaser. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be loved. And when I got admiration from performance, I was like, oh, that's the real me. That's who I am. But it wasn't the real me. There's an integration between my authentic self, which hadn't been awakened yet, and that girl on stage who was fearless. And yeah, she's my Sasha Fierce, my super earth mama. Get it, queen. But learning how to be that person off stage has been my work for about a decade now. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing drugs. And, before that, I had started clinical herbalism and research into holistic healing and that kind of thing. But there was still this separation of the spirit and the body, because that's how the medical community wanted it. And it started in the 15th century, the 1500s. The medical community and the religious community, which the church was the supreme ruler at the time, they had a conversation, and the medical community wanted to keep the bodies to study the afterlife and the spirit. And they said, you can keep the bodies, but we keep the spirit. That's just a body. And that's where it happened. That's where me and so many other wonderful healers that I've studied from are here to remind us that we are not just a body, and we have to stop treating ourselves like we're just a body. That's a big part of my work. And I utilize tarot now on a daily basis. If you could see, you can see my office. Lots of tarot back there, and books, and I'm a nerd. And also sound healing and so many other modalities. There is no one path for healing. And I realized that all of these things that I was learning and that I was creating, these different aspects of myself, all had to come together. And it started really coming together and really starting to express itself, my magic, when I met Logan. And he started getting into astrology, and I was like, I read tarot. Oh, don't dump me. But I also didn't say it like that. I was like, this is who I am. I wasn't afraid to share that with him, because I was at a point in my life where I was like, take me as I am, or don't take me at all. And I would rather know now, before I dive in, whether or not you accept me. And I'm a weirdo. Okay, so you're just going to have to get on board if you're on board. And he was like, okay, teach me. So he was the first tarot student I ever had, really. And it was just so freeing. And I realized, oh shit, I am a teacher. I've been doing this most of my life. I got my first tarot deck when I was about 15, That was my first tarot deck. That doesn't mean that was my first time doing tarot. I used other people's decks for years because I thought, and some people wouldn't let me. So I used books that had tarot cards in it. And I was like, oh, I'll do readings that way, because I don't remember where I heard it, but apparently everyone has heard this law too, that you're not supposed to buy your own tarot deck. And because of that, I was like, okay, so I just have to wait till someone buys me a tarot deck. And no one in my life, oh my God. I mean, I had my shrine and my mother would always go, who's that? What's her name? I was like, oh, that's the goddess Tara. And she's like, oh, that's nice. Honey, were you doing drugs in here? I smell something smoking. I was like, oh no, Mom, that's sage, or that's sandalwood, or that's a candle, or no, I was just doing a spell. I was not the daughter she was equipped to handle per se, but my mother never demeaned me or made me feel like I had to hide. However, she didn't necessarily approve, and my father didn't get it at all and was not interested in me very much. So I loved living in my own little world and having my shrine at age 12, and throughout my entire life I've always had shrines, and if you don't have a shrine, you need one. And teaching people how to heal themselves has only come from having to heal myself and learning through loss, great loss, that we can only save ourselves. So I consider myself a healer, but my purpose is to teach others how to heal themselves with the knowledge that I have. This does not make me... I don't want to be a deity to anyone. I don't want you guys to follow this podcast because you think that I have all the answers and that I'm perfect. I'm not perfect. I mean, I wish I could turn the camera around and you could see it's not perfect in here. But I'm also not interested in perfection because that's not reality. No one's idea of perfection matches another person's idea of perfection. It's usually based on subconscious expectations, which came from our parents or our authority figures or from teachers or whoever put pressure on us to be a part of ourselves that we aren't authentically that person. That's where we learned that from. That's learned behavior. In default mode, I don't care. I don't honestly care that my life isn't perfect, and I am so into being human and allowing human aspects to come through, but to own it, to own when I'm not perfect and when I go too far, or, you know, if I'm, of course, with my partner, because he's the main person that I have interactions with, we have been helping each other grow and evolve through witnessing our weaknesses and our imbalances. And I would say imbalance is more accurate because nobody is weak. It is based on our survival instincts, how we process our emotions, how we process this world, and how we are dealing with things, either our trauma or current drama or whatever situation. And we get repressed and depressed into this human body and feel like we have no power. But that's the lie. We are born powerful, and the divine truth of every human being is you are magical. You are a part of the whole of the great cosmo magical thread of the beautiful magical web of the universe. And I know people can clip this out and be like, she's crazy. Yes. And you need to be too, because there are things in science that cannot explain the magic of the earth or of humanity or of your body or of your mind. There is magic in this world, and it's within and all around us. And I teach people how to access their authentic magic, to heal their traumas, to deal with their imbalances, to take ownership of their life as it is and the path that they choose moving forward, because it is a choice. We are powerful beings. There are so many wonderful people out there. It could be you, that you feel trapped, that you feel like because XYZ, you can't do certain things, but it's not entirely true. Maybe you won't be able to do it right away, but you can start making movements towards your dreams, your goals, and the person you want to be. So then we get to open our minds to possibility and ask ourselves, who do we want to be? And that's been my journey the last year since dying. Who do I want to be? I want to be the divine representation of this work. I want to go deep into the understandings of working with plants, magic, manifestation, anatomy, physiology, science, but unification of science and spirit is the core of my work. And I use tarot in my readings to access and understand energetic situations, energetic imprints that people are experiencing. And I help them create, through the messages from spirit and their spirit guides, a path forward. So many of us could be communicating with our spirit guides whenever we wanted. And I do that as a service to activate that power because it's our birthright. It's our birthright. And there's nothing demonic or evil about it. The problem with a lot of religions is, in order for you to believe a certain religion, it has to be baked in that you can't trust yourself, that you are sinful, that you are weak, you're inherently wrong, and you have to seek something outside of yourself, which is divine and perfect and has all the answers. And through them, salvation and, whatever, which is great if it works for you. But if it's not working for you, if you're depressed and if you feel powerless, it's not working for you. And I'm not saying that you are God, the only God, the great and powerful. I'm saying that you have a godlike essence within you, which gives you power, which gives you magic, which gives you an energetic frequency, which when we talk about the nervous system, you're going to understand that correlates to the energy you put out into the world and also affects the energetic frequencies around you of other people. This isn't woo-woo, it's science, and we can dive into it. Honestly, I want to be able to talk about whatever you guys are interested in the healing world. We're going to be talking about wellness. I'm going to educate you on skincare, every aspect of your lifestyle we can dive into. That's what this podcast is for. I want it to be something that empowers you, that helps you learn my number one thing that I love to say because it's frickin' true. You were made perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. And when I work with people in wellness sessions, I'm not a doctor. I'm a clinical herbalist, technically, also a shamanic herbalist, but I'm a spiritual healer and teacher. That's who I am. I have a lot of knowledge, but this is my life. I will be a student of this work for the rest of my life. And I love to share what I know and teach people how to apply it in their lives if it works for them. If it doesn't work for you, it's no big deal. I'm not like, this is what you have to do. Now, the beauty of plant medicine, of Mother Earth is, first of all, you don't have to spend a lot of money to heal yourself. Number one. Number two, you were made perfect. If things are imbalanced, it's telling you that there's an imbalance you have to deal with, and it can't be masked by pharmaceuticals. It can't be masked by over-the-counter drugs. Those are not real medicine. And in this podcast, if you're interested, I can teach you about real medicine. Also in Mystic Circle, which is our community where we're working monthly through each plant. We just started a month ago, 2 months ago. We're brand new as of right now, October 2024. But I'm so excited to keep giving you guys all these lessons in Circle, our classes, all of our astrology, tarot, psychic development is also there. If you're interested, you can join our community today. It's all inclusive and it's a very supportive community. We do not put up with people judging other people because you get plenty of that in the outside world. We're creating our own community where we can raise each other up as opposed to pushing each other down. We've been conditioned to believe that criticism yields results. The only results it usually yields is a dysregulated nervous system. So we're calming our nervous system. We're finding a place of balance and safety within Mystic Circle. And we'd love you to join us if you'd like. Or you can follow us here. Tell me down in the comments what you're interested in, where you are in your healing journey. And how your postpartum journey has been. Anything that I've said in this video, whether it was tarot, herbalism, dying, any aspects that you're interested in, comment down below and we will see where this podcast goes. Remember, you were made perfect. Vibe higher.